live.
Thank you for setting this up. It's awesome.
Yeah. Hi, everybody.
Hi, everyone.
So, you guys probably know, well, we're live in lots of places. So I'm a guest on Jenny's page and Jenny is a guest on my page. But this is the lovely Jenny B.
Hi, guys.
Probably a lot of you guys know, and one of my favorite peeps in the whole wide world. Yeah, we've been actually playing and creating together, well, for eons, let's just say.
Eons is a good word, Heather. A very good word. And this is, for anyone in my page, this is Heather Nichols, if you did not know. Where are we going to start with this? Because there's a whole lot of stuff I wanted to talk to you with. And then we just went, let's go live and just talk. And then my mind goes blank. So I'm like, where are we starting? What are we going to start with?
Well, we called it Welcome to Your World, which I think is such a, it's like one of the most important things we can all be choosing right now, you know, is our world, like what's true for us, for each one of us, you know, and what it is to know that and be that in the world and in every area of your life.
Totally, because it starts with you. Everything starts with you. Your relationships to yourself start with you, and then from there, the flavor of how you are with others progresses as well. But what I love about both of us is we're facilitators, but also being you facilitators. And part of that journey with me has been with, like, in that chat with so many of us that are being you facilitators, and Dane stepping in and giving us contribution as well about what it is we can look at, where is it we're stepping up into, what else we can choose. There's always like, and I've been drawn to you with this for a long time, like there's like a thrum of creation. There's like, and I put it on a post before, like it's like 1,000 galloping or 1,000 million galloping pink unicorns. It's just, and this like real creation of who you are shows up everywhere. And I'm very much attuned to that because it's, for me, it's been an ask for a long time to do it my way, but also like, what is it I loved about you was like the elegance and the way that you be with that, but also the ask, you continually keep going. So I wondered if you could talk, I mean, I've said quite a lot, but I wonder if you could talk a bit about that. That would be really grateful.
Oh, cool.
What fires you up?
What fires me up is seeing the world that I know that we can have. Actually, well, I'm going to say actualizing, like coming into existence already and acknowledging that, but also like actualizing it even more. And when I came across the tools of Access Consciousness, and for those of you guys who don't know who Dane is, that Jenny mentioned, Dr. Dane here is one of the creators of Access Consciousness, and he's written many amazing books, one of which is Being You, Changing the World. Yeah, such an amazing book, of which we are both Being You facilitators and other things as well, X-Men facilitators, and you know, lots of other stuff. But when I you know, I had been doing all kinds of different modalities and working with bodies and change and movement and, you know, transformation for a long time, like since my mid-20s or so. But when I came across Access, which was 10 years ago, it was like, oh my gosh, finally somebody is saying what I have always known and didn't have the tools, didn't know that it was possible. I always thought I was just sort of a dreamer and, you know, living in fantasy and, you know, and it's like, oh, wait a minute, I can actually literally be me and change the world. And it's not just like a lovely idea that we all go, yeah, that's great. And then nothing changes, you know, there's actual tools that actually work. I'm in.
Totally. And there's that bit as well, is when you start being that, it's like, and it is that energetic thrum that sort of spreads out from you into everyone's worlds, and the people that are really drawn to it will ask, what is that? You know, because that was what intrigued me very much in the beginning of my journey with Access, because I as well had been like a psychotherapist and looked into this and that and worked with bodies. But I mean, I loved the way that you not just packaged everything, but you included, it wasn't just like you're talking about this, therefore it's only about this. And I'll give an example of like the business pod. It's not just about business, you know, it's like when I started and chose that, which was 6 years ago, the first one, I've done 5.
I love that.
They added to my life so much because it wasn't just about business. It was actually about business as your life, and you being you is the start of that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And we say in the Joy of Business, which is a specialty area in Access, as well as being you and all these other things, business is the adventure of living. And I was so grateful for that as well. Just the invitation to step into that and choose that. Because I always wanted to, I love being creative. I love creating. I mean, it's vital to me, and I know it is for you too, Jenny. I think that's true for, all the seekers of the world, and whether we realize it or not. And, but business was always one of those things where I was like, I don't really want to wear a suit and work in a high rise, So I guess I'll just have to
straight jacket,
not have money, or marry a rich person, or, it was like, I'm never going to be able to do that, and so it was so great to see, when I'm driving my children to school, I'm in business. When I'm, having sex, I'm in business. When I'm, creating, and it's like creation occurs all the time, everywhere. It's this, as you say, I love the word thrum, that just runs through my whole life. And when we realize that's the energy that actually juices us and fills us up and shows up so differently for everybody, and does change the world. It's just such a gift. And I love, it's been so fun to see you in your way too.
Cheers. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I came to Access as a psychotherapist, but I still thought I was really messed up. I thought I was so different whilst trying to keep really normal, because I thought I was sort of normal. And it's really the journey of Access and acknowledging that a lot of what I was aware of was everyone else's worlds and how they function. I didn't have a clue of how I functioned and what worked for me. And I had to relearn that. I had to relearn my business, what business was for me, because I only had my dad's points of view, because he was a really good businessman and had made a really great worldwide business with what he did. But it didn't translate for me. So finding my way with business, my way with how I, how many points of view I had about how my body should be and what way it should look. And how many points of view I had about me and what my image was. And you had to have an image to show up to do business or to be a facilitator. And the joy of, I would say my second facilitators class and Access was all about letting all of that go. Because the image is very much, if you build yourself from an image, it's very stable. It's very much regimented. You have to stay like this, a bit like the business suit you were talking about. Yeah. And what it does is it creates problems, because you've got to adhere to that time and time again. Mm-hmm. And that's not being you at all. That's really chaining you up and locking you up in the points of view and projections of what you think you should be. And then to really find you've got to let all of that go first, and then be present with who you are and the ask of what you want to create as your life. What is it you're choosing here? What works? What doesn't work? And in what way is it that you can choose more and create your world differently? Because that's my ask too. You said it at the beginning, it's my ask is what would it take for us all to be living in a world of non-judgment? how awesome would that be to actually get up and actually be able to be who you are without anyone else? Not that judgment's wrong. It's just like not to judge yourself for a start. And then what does that create in the world? If we didn't judge ourselves, how different would the world be?
Yeah. And if we recognized how different we actually function too, like that a lot of times when we think we're judging ourselves, we're actually perceiving other people's judgment. And, I mean, there's a whole universe here, and it's like, welcome to your world. There's a whole universe in your world that is your world. And it's so, being you it has become this sort of buzzword, and people do, all kinds of things to sort of find what that is or who that is, and I was just thinking about this yesterday, like when I was in my 20s, I was like a massive hippie, the Grateful Dead was still around, and well, like the beginning of my 20s, until I think Jerry Garcia died when I was like 25 or something like that. But anyway, I went on Dead tour. I had a station wagon with curtains and my long-haired boyfriend and my dog, and we would just drive around and sit in the car and watch the Grateful Dead, And I was thinking about how, I had all the garb, I had all the hippie garb, and it was like, I thought that was being me, because it was like being so blatantly what I, like the opposite of what I didn't want to be.
Yes.
And defining myself as that, and one of the beautiful things about actually being you, and there's so much more of that available every day, is there is no definition. You don't have to define you, and when you do, you limit you. We always say, what you define, you confine. And the living from that space of not defining yourself, it gives you the freedom to choose anything. It gives you the freedom to be willing to be anything, to be like, today or right now, I'm going to do this, or I'm going to choose this, or I'm going to be this. And in a world that is so polarized based on right and wrong, and becoming more polarized in a way every day with, right, left, liberal, conservative, Republican, Democrat, I can't even think of the words because it's so irrelevant to me. It's like, I'm none of that. None of that defines me. And that's when you get to have the freedom of choice, and the freedom of kindness, and the freedom of contribution, and the freedom of creation, that is this total adventure.
Totally. And it never stops, because the adventure never ends. It's an ongoing evolution of choice, change, and really asking, what is it I require next? Because even when you think you are being you, you're not. Because as soon as you get it in your head, then you're not being you. Exactly. So it's like, what is being you is that choice and that evolution of possibilities that show up in your world without definition, without that real construction of image of what being you is. Mm. So there's no key. No one can give you the key to being you. You have to keep choosing it. And it's that ongoing, and I still get the word thrum, that is rocking through so many of us in Access's worlds, to keep choosing, to keep going, to step it up, to be more. And one of the things I've noticed is when I do get to a space of where everything's like ease, joy, and glory, I will create something to stop me. Oh, there's a pain here. Oh, that's bad. Or this is difficult in my world. Or money's suddenly tough all of a sudden. There's always something that I create. And if I make that a problem, then I end up locking myself up again. So this continual asking of what is it, or who is it I am, and what is it I am, and asking to be present with that without definition is continual. It doesn't stop. And I have actually got a telecall, a Being You telecall coming up, and it's called Escapology.
I love that. I really
Well,
want
it's the art that we all be of getting out the chains that chain us. But my question is, how much of it that you actually escape from is actually created by you to keep you on that stimulus of what the world is like, is always problem solving. If you didn't need to problem solve and you allowed yourself to be present with you, then what could you create? What are you creating when you are that? Because that's the non-definition piece. And it's a two-part telecall, but it's the journey of being you with that and noticing when you do escape, how do you give yourself a pat on the back for being so awesome? I got out of that pain, or I got out of that trauma, or yes, I've done it. But in actual fact, did you create the problem to show yourself that you can actually get out of it? And if you didn't need to do that, what would your life be like? That's my ask.
That's so cool. Well, one of the conversations that has been really juicing me up lately is about like ignoring this reality and creating a different, like not even a reality, but creating something totally different, a different world. And that has been like running through so much of my world and my classes lately. And just because this is such a poignant moment to do that, because of all the escalation of everything in the world, and all of the polarization and the separation and the control. And it's like, in a way, this reality getting like so much louder. And yet at the same time, like it's like watching it die. I'm like, cool, it's dying. It's killing itself, right now as we speak, it's dying. And it's sort of like allowing the death of something that like whose death is appropriate, and going, okay, that's happening over there. And I'm going to create something completely different. And, so that creation is constantly in the works. And it's, upon the death of this reality, not that there really will be like a moment, but there's that, there's this whole new world, that we
Totally.
have been nurturing and creating all along, and people get to see it and go, oh, wow, that's something that I could actually choose, and we had Global Bars Day yesterday for Access Consciousness Global Bars Day, which was absolutely an absolute masterpiece. I mean, such a phenomenally brilliant creation.
Talk about effortless ease and flow and just, yeah.
So beautiful. I cried so many times yesterday.
Well, the team are awesome as well, and kudos to the team totally that set that up, and just everyone running the behind the scenes as well, because it just, no problems at all.
Yeah, it was so brilliant. And that to me was like, and if you didn't see it, or you're just hearing about it, it will be up on the website for 7 days. I believe the replays will be up for 7 days. It was 12 hours of continuous streaming content, interviews, videos, just so beautiful. accessconsciousness.com. But that to me was a beautiful example of actually creating a different, like ignoring this reality and creating our world.
And it's like that, you're not chained up by this reality, that where you are escaping into a problem. It's just so beyond the problem that it's not even registered.
Yeah.
And
why would I do that?
Exactly.
Just so much fun.
So more of that. And if we've got a glimpse of this just now and it's showing up everywhere around us, guys, please come on the bandwagon. And what is it you're creating that can add to this? What is it you're being that adds to this? Who is it out there that's just like creating something similar that is opening up that space for everyone else? Because to me, it's like, consciousness comes in different ways. There's not just access, there's millions of myriad of ways that include consciousness. So what are you choosing and creating that adds to that? And acknowledge, please, guys, because it's like it all creates that same thrum that we've been asking for to show up in the world and to generate a different possibility.
Yeah. And what you're choosing and creating that adds to that is it doesn't have to look like some big thing, because I think, people that are seekers tend to judge themselves a lot more than anything else.
Really? Are you sure?
I'm not creating anything that adds to that, but
I'm terrible at creating. I'm bad. Yeah.
so let's let all of that go. And because even just the choice to even just listen to this conversation, that's a very different choice, or just to go, what if I didn't have to define myself? What if I didn't have to be something specific? What if I could create based on what's joyful for me today, and
Totally.
just, yeah.
In that piece, like where, what if I didn't need to, I forgot what you said now, but literally like every time you look in the mirror, what would it take to look in the mirror and not judge yourself at all? What would that create?
Even if you did it for 5 seconds.
Exactly.
That's a different choice.
Yeah.
To even be aware that occurs is a different choice, because most people just think that's what is, and from there, like what you can create is, and this is the part that I find so phenomenal, is the creative and generative possibilities that come, that you can't access those possibilities when you're in judgment. So the judgment goes away and the creation really begins to flourish. I also have a Being You class coming up, and it's called The Miracle of Being You in Business: How to Create Everything You Desire with Half the Work and Twice the Profit.
I love it.
Yeah. But that's exactly what occurs when you get out of judgment of you, is that you do get to, it's like everything that you're asking for actually begins to show up, and like what becomes available to you when you truly be you, and like as the adventure of being you, because there's more and more all the time. It's astounding. It's like so much ease, so much joy, so much glory, so much creation. The money flows that you've been asking for, the reality with your body and your relationships and the world. It's like it all just shows up, and it might sound very like like a fantasy, and it actually, what I've seen in my life, and I know in yours too, Jenny, and so many people that we know, it's like it's one of the most pragmatic choices you can make.
I call it like a Star is Born moment, because every single time something I ask for begins to show up, it's like a little sparkle in my world. And if I acknowledge it and like be present with it, then it becomes this big, shiny beacon that just nurtures me and adds to my world. And that could be anything from as simple like I walked through the forest last week and found this plant, and there was seeds on it. So I took the seeds and I planted them, and I've now got like 15 tiny little plants, and they're beautiful. And I didn't know they're called honesty. So it's like I'm growing honesty, and I was in tears. The joy, the contribution they are, just little things like that.
Yeah.
And each one of those is a little star, because I'm nurturing them, they're growing, they'll get put in pots and eventually put in the garden, and just like I'll see them every year and they'll have babies and more and more. So that is creating. To me, it's simple, and it's the little things that you don't even think about. You could put a bird feeder out, and like the birds that come to it, the seeds that they're getting from there, you're feeding them. Like, how much nurturing do you actually give things that you may not have acknowledged? Mm. And that contributes to you being you. When you receive that, that adds to your world too. So, I'd like to leave you with something, and that is to go around your house, your apartment, wherever you are, and like notice the things that you've actually helped create. And that could be a plant, or the fact you've painted a wall, or you've done a drawing, whatever that is. What is it you've given birth to that adds to that garment, to that piece of jewelry, that contributes to you in return? And if you receive that, what can it open up in your world?
I love that.
I love it too.
That's truly nurturing our world, our reality, where these things that seem so little and insignificant are actually these like moments of so much beauty and possibility that, you know, have been kind of killed by the judgments of this reality.
Totally.
It's truly everything is the opposite of what it appears to be, and nothing is the opposite of what it appears to be. So, yeah. Thanks everybody for being here with us. Thank you, Jenny. This is just gorgeous.
It's been a beautiful journey, and like I did have something I was going to read, and it's literally, it's on page, wait to get the page for you so you guys can go away and read it if you want. It's on page 215, and it's called Letting Go of the Safety Net. So when you don't project it yourself, and you don't define yourself, and you don't create you as you think you should be, then you're letting go of the safety net that keeps you bound up in the significant way that you should be, and allows you to emerge as the beauty of you. And that is my ask for everyone, to be so happy with themselves, and be present with themselves in a different way. Yeah.
Yes. I love it. Yeah, and Christine, that was from the Being You, Changing the World book. So.
Yes, Being You, Changing the World, 215. I didn't see anything there. I just see hello, Christine. Yeah, totally. And yeah, thanks so much, Heather. It's a joy to play with you. And thank you, everyone, for coming on.
Thank you. Bye, everybody.